Coach, you guys, 2 games last week, Wednesday and Friday, both losses, unfortunately, for the Icemen. What kind of is there any positives you can take away from either one of those 2 games?
Yeah, it's a new week.
There you go.
Are you on to Fort Wayne?
He's the next question.
Yeah, we're all about looking forward and looking ahead. So, obviously, we're excited about the weekend. We're excited to get out of the month of November. I thought that, when you look at our schedule, it was a real hectic month with a lot of games in a short period of time. So, and again, we're still right there, and things are moving forward. And, obviously at this level, like we've talked about numerous times, things change every day here. So it keeps things exciting. And, right now there's a lot of positive things heading into Friday and Saturday. And, it's just a great time of year, too, to be around home.
Well, and you guys get to spend the majority of December at home. And let's look ahead a little bit to the games this weekend. You get to host the Fort Wayne Comets, which are a big rival for the Icemen. The in-state rivalry obviously is a big deal. Plus, they're in the same division with you guys and leading the division currently. What do you guys need to do this weekend with the Icemen? Is it still pretty much the same game plan week in and week out, or night in and night out as it has been, just trying to get better execution?
Well, I think, obviously it is. Some of the personnel things you can't control. So, again, I think it is executing. I think that it's just getting some consistent play out of, some of the core players that we do have here. And, again, I think that at this point in time, heading into the weekend, we've got a few familiar faces back, too, that'll help us solidify our lineup moving forward. So, I think we're excited about it. We've had a good week of practice here. I mean, again, it's a great time of year to kind of be around home, and it's energy, and we play well in the Ford Center, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, you talk about some familiar faces coming back. Here he comes again. My favorite, Patrick Kennedy. I like him, and he's tough. Yeah. But he's back again.
Yeah.
Now, obviously that's good for the Icemen. I mean, he's a heck of a hockey player.
Right.
But, does that help or hinder a player moving back and forth that quickly, or is that just something they're used to?
Well, I think that it really depends on where they're at in their career. I think that if you're a first-year pro and a first-year player that's going through some of these transitions from team to team, it gets a little bit difficult. But, Patrick's been through this a lot, and I think that he's comfortable in both places. Obviously, he's spent a number of days and games in both places, and I think that he's comfortable. And, and that's part of actually maturing and being a good professional is being able to adapt and handle that. And so, I don't see that being an impact necessarily for him or, at this point in time, really any of the other guys. I mean, Chris Dredger probably at this point in time, as a familiar face to our roster, probably has to go through the biggest transition, not only as a goaltender, just making that next step, but it's a little different for them. There's no doubt about it.
Well, why? I guess the question would just be why? Why is obviously they call him up.
Yeah.
Is it going back and forth because they just need somebody filling an injury?
Yeah.
Higher up, or what's the reason?
It could be a multitude of reasons. Typically, it starts with what's going on with the team at the major league level. So for us, it's the Ottawa Senators, and in particular with Chris Dredger, this last call-up was because they lost a goaltender in Ottawa, which then means they lose a goaltender in Binghamton, which means we lose a goaltender in Evansville. So
like a domino effect.
It's completely it, yeah. And typically then, the others are just when the roster gets depleted at the American Hockey League level. So for our case in Binghamton, when there's injuries occur there, obviously it creates opportunity for players here. So it could be injuries, it could be call-ups, it could be just a player performing well here and a player not performing well there. Sometimes they could put that player in the stands, take our player, plug him in, and then at some point in time maybe send us a different player. So it could be a multitude of reasons. Typically, it's injury related, though. For the most part, it's injury related. And then I guess the next step would be probably just the call up to the NHL.
So that's why they end up going back and forth.
Correct.
The player gets healthy, and you didn't really do quite enough to
Right.
leapfrog him, I guess, would be the word on the roster, so you come back down, right?
There's that, plus there's a priority order. I mean, again, when you're a draft pick in an organization and you're on a major league contract in an organization, and if you're not playing at the level that you should be playing at and you're not playing in a certain league, you can make a lot of people in that organization look bad. And so, I mean, there's a lot of other factors that really go into whether or not how good of an opportunity you're going to get. And are you an emergency player or are you a full-time player?
Yeah.
And it's a real tough, it's a tough road to crack. I mean, it really is. And it takes a lot of, perseverance. It takes a lot of personal courage and strength to stay mentally sharp and determined. Because there's going to be guys that are given certain privileges that you maybe don't get to have.
It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 online, ESPNEvansville.com. Our weekly sit down with Evansville IceMen head coach Dwight Mullins. When you get a guy like Kennedy who comes and goes, but you obviously it's a guy you're very familiar with. Is it easier to know, like, okay, we're getting Patrick back? Can you plug him in right away because you know what you're getting, as opposed to maybe somebody that you're not as familiar with? Does that automatically give him a spot back in the rotation, or is it just kind of you got to see what your current rotation of guys looks like and whether or not you can automatically just throw Patrick back into it?
Well, it's a lot easier to transition and to plug a player in that you've had. So on these call-ups, it's easier to plug in a Patrick Kennedy, a Danny Hobbs, those types of players, because they've played for you before and they've been a part of your team and your group. When you're bringing in a new face from another team, or you're bringing in a free agent player or somebody that you've maybe only watched online, you have to give that player some time so that you can get a good understanding of where he needs to fit within your team. So there's no doubt that the call-up player is a lot easier to stick back into your lineup. Now, again, if I get sent another player that's been playing in Binghamton all year and they send him down here, you kind of have to go through that same adjustment again of just trying to familiarize yourself with their strengths and weaknesses, for sure.
Well, talking about there's always roster moves, and I've received 2 press releases today from you guys. Miles Bell has been recalled by Albany.
Yeah.
But you also, literally the minute before you walked in the room here, I get an email that says that you guys have added Brandon Martell from Rapid City. So what kind of player is he?
Well, Brandon's a big-bodied defenseman. He's a left-shot defenseman, and I'm somebody that really believes in having an equal balance on our blue line of left shots and right shots, and I think that it helps with your team play. Brandon's a player that we did a lot of homework on, and we were able to acquire through the futures component of an earlier trade in training camp that was part of the Dylan Clark deal. So, again, an opportunity to add a player at this point in time that we feel we needed to, in an area that we needed to kind of shore up. And, he got in today, and, we'll look forward to him contributing here this weekend.
So this was one of those future
deal.
You've got a question. I think this would be probably a great time to throw that question out.
Ties perfectly into what Michael asked us on our Facebook page. He asked about future considerations, saying that you guys have made almost a dozen trades this season, many of which involve these future considerations. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. He wants to know if we're going to see a bunch of players move to complete those deals as the season goes on, or have some of those futures actually been resolved via cash considerations instead?
Yeah, great question, because the futures component or the futures term really doesn't always equate into a player. So 95% of those trades that are categorized as future considerations are typically some type of a cash settlement, and that can be anywhere from $1 to $500 typically. I mean, we've done some cash deals that have been in the thousands of dollars, but obviously those are far and few between. But typically the futures component is just a way for a team to acquire a player on an emergency basis that allows us to be able to uses immigration. There's an immigration issue with regards to our league and players and signing players and contracts. So trading a player instead of picking him up in the free agent market allows us to use his immigration, saves us a lot of costs there as a franchise. And then the futures component allows us to not have to give anything up. And again, it could be anywhere from $1 to, again, whatever number
Whatever it
is
is.
agreed upon.
Right.
And typically, like I said, in our case, a lot of the futures components and a lot of the futures deals that we've had to do have just been out of us trying to acquire bodies to keep our lineup healthy at, based on where we're at the time. If you look at a player like Tom Serratori, he took a pregame skate in Toledo with the Toledo Walleye. We were depleted. I think we had 7 forwards on the bus headed to Toledo, playing them that night. Skated. They had extra bodies, needed to move them.
Mm-hmm.
I traded futures for him. He played for us that night, and so that's
crazy.
That's
That's insane to me.
That's how a lot of that stuff works. So, is it going to relate to a lot of turnover and turn-on? It's something that I think is just a way for us to supplement our roster. But there are times when there is a player involved sometimes, but it's not very often.
So Ryan's skating abilities that he showed in training camp would be futures would be $2 and a biscuit, maybe.
You'd give me $2 after that video?
I give you $2 because inflation.
I'll give you $2 to keep me off the ice again.
I like a milkshake.
I do have one other fan question. Lance sent us an email and asked, what happened to Dana Frazier? He got hurt in training camp, was on IR for a while. Yeah. Now apparently gone. Will we ever see him again?
Yeah, Dana's a player that we brought in, and basically the first 4 or 5 days of training camp was injured with a high ankle sprain, and it took quite a long time for him to get up and running. And in the meantime, Dana had made a personal decision to go back to university up in Canada and finish his college degree, and by doing so before an October deadline, he could play the second half of what's called the Canadian inter-university season. So he's back up in Canada finishing his degree and playing for the college up there, and he had to do that under a certain timeline and deadline, and based off his injury, it was really a good personal decision for him at this point in time to be able to go ahead and get that out of the way, and then he can pursue his professional career again once he's completed that. Yeah.
Well, and you may not know the answer to this. I don't know, but does Canada's universities work the same way as they do here in the States? Where
no,
if you're paid,
no,
okay, they don't. He could have been paid to play and still go back and play at the collegiate level.
There's a window of opportunity that allows you to explore your professional career, without jeopardizing your eligibility. But even if you were to play 1 year professional hockey, then you would have to sit out 1 year of college hockey in Canada. In under certain circumstances. It gets a little bit tricky, but the bottom line is no. And so what ends up happening is these players start their college at 21 years old. And so you're getting an older player. And some of these players, are experienced and have played not only in major junior hockey, which is, one of the premier leagues to play in, that feeds the National Hockey League. Not only have they grown up and playing in that league, but then they go on and they play the Canadian University circuit, which is full of all of those players, because for every year they play in the major junior, they get a full scholarship for that year to a university of their choice. So a lot of these guys have played 4 or 5 years, and it's basically a college scholarship that they've acquired. They just start later. They're 21 years old when they're freshmen.
Well, you got Fort Wayne coming in this weekend. Obviously, we don't like them.
No.
We don't like them.
We don't either.
Yeah, it's we're done with them. But what do you need to do to they're leading the division.
Yeah.
And you're on a 2-game losing streak. Obviously, you want to shake that. Like you said, you got a new month, fresh month, everything's behind you.
Right.
What are you going to need to do as a team to get some wins this weekend?
Well, I think one of the mysteries of our hockey team has just been how we've started hockey games, and we've talked a lot about it here lately. And I think that us obviously having a great start here on Friday is going to be key. I think that they have a strong 5-on-5 game. I think that their special teams are on par with pretty much everybody else. So, it's not an area of concern, but I think that, again, we have to have a solid 5-on-5 game. We have to limit our turnovers and not give them opportunities based on some giveaways and turnovers. And I think that we should be okay. I mean, I like our lineup heading into the weekend. Again, we should, have as good a group as what we've had here all year, and it should be an exciting weekend.
Can we drop gloves like in warm-up just to let them know we're serious. Just in pregame, man. Before the officials come out, just go, man. Just go. Let them know we're serious this weekend.
You're about 25 years too late.
I am. I know. That's when I watched. I tell you what, I don't know if you know the name or not, but Craig Ludwig played for the Minnesota Stars and the Dallas Stars years ago.
Yeah.
But he was a friend of mine from up north. He was from up in Eagle River, Wisconsin, and we had a club up in Mosinee there.
That's right.
Real near him. Craig led the league, I believe, a couple of years. He was a headhunter. He was paid to hurt people.
That's right.
That was in a different time, and he was a fun dude to be around, boy. You got to be half nuts and the other half ain't right,
you got that right
to do what he did for a living, that's for sure.
I'll tell you, when I grew up, when I was 18, 19 years old, it got so bad that the league mandated that both teams warmed up separate times. That's how bad it got. And the guys today, they think I'm kidding, but this is all dead serious. For 2 years, we warmed up in separate times.
Well, we could sit here and talk forever. We do. We got to get going, though, and I know you got to get back to your day-to-day operations too, Coach. That's Evansville IceMen Head Coach Dwight Mullins from the Evansville IceMen, getting ready for the Fort Wayne Comets this Friday and Saturday night inside the Ford Center. Tickets are still available at the Ford Center box office. Ticketmaster.com will have both games for you here, of course, on ESPN Evansville 105.3 with coverage both nights starting at 7 o'clock. Coach, thanks for the time. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. It's a great time to bring the family out. It's a great time of year. We got a lot going on, so we look forward to the support.